Hello, I'm Maestro Gregory and I am the inventor of the Maestro Gregory Gibson Electric Orchestra of all its instruments and the creator of the DOG'S BOLLOCKS, the Electric Symphony, and ready basically to invade the world. Aren't you lucky? So here, let me explain to you how it goes. In 1878, a small orchestra, 15-piece strong, of Spanish students called the Figaro Spanish students perform at a Paris Music Expo and were a hit overnight. With just one performance they managed to get 2 years of touring and they basically put Europe into a blaze. They were dressed in traditional Spanish costumes and the instruments were mostly bandurias, which is kind of primitive mandolins, 2 guitars and then bass. They performed light classical music but also a couple of pieces by Mozart and Beethoven. In 1882 they came to America and again they were a massive success overnight, so much so that they spawned a 50 years mandolin, acoustic mandolin orchestra craze. In America there were lots of immigrants playing already mandolin, so the actual banduras were replaced by mandolin. But the one big company, the one person to begin with, and then a company that capitalized on that was Gibson. Over Gibson decided that mandolin should be upgraded from the flat top to the Stradivari violin style. So he decided to start making for himself mandolins with an arched top, carved top and carved back, exactly like a Stradivari violin. That got up and a bunch of investors decided to make Gibson the biggest company on the planet, and they sign up over Gibson. So Gibson was formed in 1894 and it became obviously the biggest company on the planet. The Gibson mandolins are still today revered as the ultimate mandolins, and the Lord Lure of the 1920s period are just the ultimate acoustic mandolins. Gibson teachers, performers and reps used to go throughout the country and create a little acoustic mandolin orchestra in schools and explain how the instrument worked. It was an absolute craze until 1930 when banjo took over for 5 years, then big band jazz, and then in the 50s the electric guitar took over. The mandolin craze lasted for about 50 years. The guitar craze has lasted for about 60 years, but now is coming to an end. Kids want something new, and here you have it. You know, history goes in cycles, so we have the new cycle of an mandolin orchestra, but this one is electric. It's a little bit more advanced than what we had in the past, but it's still a Gibson, and let me explain how I did it. In fact, not only is it an acoustic mandolin orchestra of sort, but even replaces the proper full-blown classical orchestra of the past. So let me show you how I've done it. Alright, welcome to the future of electric guitar, if that's what you want to call it. I would say to the future of music, actually. I am Maestro Gregory and I have come up with what is the Maestro Gregory Gibson Electric Orchestra. What I've done, I've looked at classical seating and replaced the full classical orchestra with, actually happens to be 16 musicians, which is very close to the Figaro Spanish students of 15. So here you have first violins in a classical orchestra, second violins, viola, cello. Then you have bass. Generally in this area you have piano if it is featured and percussions, and at the far end you have brass and woodwinds. I replaced first violins with what we call fiddle blasters, which is 2 Gibson Les Paul electric mandolins. I replaced second violins with what we call Gibson tenor blaster, which is 2 Gibson Les Paul tenors, special design we'll show in a minute. We have replaced violas with, yet again, 2 tenor blasters, slightly different tuning. We replaced cello with 2 what I call cello blaster, which is a variation of cello, but it's got more range. I will show you that in a second. Again, they're all Gibson instruments, Les Paul, I have to specify that. We have a Hammond B3 and Wurlitzer electric piano for keyboards. We have timpani, drums. Drums are very important, modern drums. We have obviously a bass, a 5-string bass with more range. And then at the end, we have 2 tenor blasters to replace the brass and 2 tenor blasters tuned the same way to replace woodwinds. There is a twist to this one. These are evocative. So the woodwinds will have one pedal a pedal that simulates flutes for the amps, and also a special distortion pedal that will drive the neck pickup to simulate flutes, woodwinds again. The brass, a characteristic of brass is the wah-wah, so there will be trumpet, wah-wah, trumpet type of thing. So there will be a special pedal, auto wah-wah, to create one kind of brass sound, and another one will be a cheesy distortion box that I found that sounds exactly like a brass instrument. So that's kind of the idea. So 2 fiddle blasters, 2 tenor blasters, 2 tenor blasters, 2 cello blasters, 1 bass, 1 drums, 1 timpani, 1 keyboards, 2 woodwinds and 2 brass. That's it, the 16 piece, plus conductor. I'm going to be playing first fiddle blast and conducting, but if I find it too hard to conduct, there will also be a conductor. That's what the orchestra is. This smokes a classical orchestra because this, with electric instrument and this setup, this has the size of a roughly 120 piece classical orchestra. Let me put it this way, this is going to be pretty loud. You know, Beethoven might have died deaf, but he will wake up with this.
Work.
Okay. As luck may have it, Maestro Gregory, i.e. myself, is also a designer and inventor. Here are the instruments, fully worked out. This is completely dialed in. The only 3 instruments, which is very straightforward. They all use the same pickups, they all use the same Gibson ABI1 version, 4-string version of a bridge. They're all 4-string tuning fifth, and here they are. The first one is the fiddle blaster, and it's basically a 24-fret mini Les Paul mandolin with a mini humbucker. I won't give you the scale length nor the exact measurement just in case this video goes in the wrong hands, but this is the first instrument. This replaced the first violins. The second violins, as we have seen, the tenor blaster, which is this one, I can tell you it's 23-inch scale. It's got 2 pickups, 24 frets. This instrument, as we know, is the core, actually, of the orchestra. It replaces not only the second violins, he also replaces violas, it replaces woodwinds and brass. And with different characteristics. It can be tuned 2 ways, so it's very convenient. It can be tuned C3 on the bottom going up to A4, or G2 on the bottom going up to E4. We can go through that specifically. The cello blaster, this is really cool. It's the third instrument. Again, same pickup, same bridge. It's just different neck measurements. Again, I won't give you this ones. It's actually tuned. They're all 4-string tuning fifths. The cello blaster will be actually lower than a real cello. A real cello starts with the C2 on the bottom, and I'm starting with A1. So it's got 3 notes lower. It's very convenient, and it sounds really. It fits within the context of the orchestra, adding a lot of really massive bottom. And don't forget, we have a 5-string bass which goes to B, so that's a modern twist, and the cello blaster will fit perfectly with that. Again, it's 4-string going up in fifth, so you have you have A, B, E, F sharp. And in this one you have whatever 2 tunings we choose, which I've described. This will be standard mandolin tuning, which is also identical to violin, so it will be G, D, A, E. These are the instruments. Really easy to manufacture because you only have the same parts, and this creates the whole Maestro Gregory Gibson orchestra. And again, this replaces classic orchestras as well. Next, it's all very good to have the instrument, to have the seating, the whole concept, but you have material. They have to have material that actually showcases perfectly this concept. And the material, kind of in line with the Figaro Spanish Students Orchestra, is light classical or serious classical. What it is a symphony. I have actually created a symphony in the style of Beethoven, but it also is rock, is jazz, is whatever you can think of. You know, so the basic core is Beethoven, but it really is, you know, 21st century for kids. You know, kids will love this. All schools will love this. Here we have it. This is a symphony, completely. It's about 900 pages, completely worked out, and it's called the DOG'S BOLLOCKS, the Electric Symphony. The DOG'S BOLLOCKS is an English expression for the best possible thing, and I dare to say it is. It's the first true symphony since Beethoven's death in 1828. There have been a couple of alleged symphonies like the Lalo Spanish Symphony Español, which is actually a violin concerto, and the Sanson Symphony, organ symphony, which is actually double instrument concerto, really. It's 2 pianos plus organ. So right, there have been no real symphonies since 1828. This is the first full-blown symphony. Now let's examine the symphony a little bit more closely. So there's 2 volumes here, but as I said, about 800 pages, 900 pages really. And here I have, at the front, I have the range of each instrument. This is actually the orchestra score. And then the actual symphony follows the orchestral seating you've seen. So I have first violin, second violin, viola, cello, bass, keyboard, woodwinds and brass. Obviously, you know, the names are fictitious. We know that actually first violin is replaced by 2 fiddle blasters, but it reflects that character. And so you go through, this is the first piece, the first movement is actually an overture, and then you get to second movement, third movement, and so on. Let me just quickly go here. Okay, second movement. So, all right, there are 8 movements. It's about an hour, and I've already been advised to do an encore follow-up. So I've chosen Nat Rocker, I've reorchestrated it, written a lengthy solo section. So at the end of a performance, the 12 soloists will be able, in the 16-piece orchestra, will be able to do their own, you know, 1 vamp each to finish off the concert in blaze of glory, obviously. That's it. Precision. Not only I already have lined up some of the best players on the planet to perform in the orchestra, they're all eager to invade, but also everything is ready for all of them. We can start rehearsing at 1 minute notice, and here you have it. First violin, two books. You get, the musician gets his own CD, the chart, the range of the instrument with a map of what the instrument looks like, and his own parts. This is first violin. Everything has been printed. So you have 2 first violins ready to go, 2 second violins ready to go. It's different tuning. Here it is. CD, different chart, viola, cello, bass, keyboards, and the woodwinds. So also you will notice that as it was visible, hopefully, in the seating chart, each section has its own color. This is very important. I remind you that the Figaro Spanish students actually were dressed in folk costumes, and those were used extensively in the mandolin orchestras. So in this case, the whole orchestra, all the orchestral members will have their own color for their own section. So the first violins will wear red tuxedos, red trousers, red shoes, and so on. Orange for second violins, white for violas, purple for cellos, blue for bass, black for keyboards, yellow for brass, and green for woodwinds. I mean, this is going to help actually students to fight hopefully will create also lots of, like it was done with the acoustic mandolin orchestra, student orchestra, and hopefully this will generate fights between students about what color they're going to wear. This is it in a nutshell. By now it should be absolutely clear to you that what I have presented reinvents everything. It reinvents classical orchestras, it reinvents jazz big bands, rock bands, you name it. Therefore, you, the audience, are about to embark for the most fantastic ride of your life, to witness firsthand the unfolding of the biggest, most powerful, the most meaningful, the most fun musical venture the world has ever seen. Truly the DOG'S BOLLOCKS.